Okay, so the last class, you got a chart that looked like this. It's kind of a visual reminder of how to factor a trinomial. Step 1 was left blank, and it was left blank on purpose. Today, we're going to add the step 1 to this list. Your step 1 is going to be to find GCD first. You found GCD a lot in this box. You use the GCD to find the outside numbers. But today we need to look at the trinomial we start with and see if the trinomial has anything in common first. Yesterday, none of them did, but today some of them will. So we're going to find the GCD of our trinomial first. It could be a number or a variable or none. So the trinomials you see from now on might have a number in common, there might be a variable that all three terms have in common, or they might not have anything in common like yesterday. But we're just adding that step, everything else is still the same. So if you look at the notes for today, our first example says negative 2x squared minus 22x minus 36. The first thing you need to know is if your A term, your very first term is negative, that means you have to take a negative out from the entire thing. So we're going to start by saying we have negative something, and then we're going to write what we have left over inside of parentheses. Now let's find the GCD, or the number that 2, 22, and 36 have in common, the greatest common divisor. So in order to do that, we're going to go back to our calculator. We're going to go to Math, Number, GCD. But you cannot type negatives in here. So we're typing a 2, comma. Because I have 3 numbers I need to type, I have to GCD twice in the calculator. If there's only 2 numbers, you GCD 1 time. If there's 3 numbers, you GCD twice. So I GCD the first number, comma, math, GCD. Now I can type the other 2. So 22, comma, 36. Close the parentheses twice. The GCD of all those 3 numbers is 2. So I already took it out a negative. I'm going to take out a 2 also. In order to figure out what I have left, what's left over after I take a negative 2 out of everything, I have to use division. So if I do negative 2 divided by negative 2, negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1. So I have 1x squared. Negative 22 divided by negative 2 is 11, so plus 11x. And then negative 36 divided by negative 2 is 18, plus 18. Okay, now, I've found the GCD is negative 2. That negative 2, I'm going to ignore until I put it in my final answer. But for the rest of this reverse box, I only use what's left on the inside of my parentheses. So now I'm going to use my factor sum chart and my box to factor only this information. So for factoring only that information, I'm looking at an A value of 1, a B value of 11, and a C value of 18. So we're ignoring the original now that we took negative 2 out. The negative 2 we don't touch, it just falls down into my final answer here. But now I'm going to factor what's left over. So A times C. 1 times 18 is 18, and B is 11. So I'm looking for factors of 18 that add to 11. So we're going to start with 1. 1 times 18 is 18. But 1 plus 18 is 19, not 11. So that doesn't work. 2. 2 times 9. The next factor is 3 times 6. 4 doesn't go into 18, 5 doesn't go into 18, and then I'm back at 6, so I'm done. So now let's add 2 plus 9 is 11, right on. So I don't have to add the other one because I already found it. So 2 and 9 are the numbers that work. Remember, when you build your box, you put ax squared in the first box. So I have 1x squared in the first box, 18 in the last box. My middle 2 boxes come from the numbers I found in my chart. So a 2x goes in one and a 9x goes to the other. Now to find my factors, to find the answer, I need to find the GCD going up the box. Whoops. The GCD going up the box and then the GCD going sideways. Okay, so let's go up. So I need the GCD of 2 and 18. So math, GCD, 2, 18 is 2. So I have a 2 here. Because this box is positive, I need a plus sign. The GCD of 1 and anything is just 1. So I have a 1 and an X there. When I GCD across, the GCD of 2x and 1x is 1x. The GCD of 9 and 18. So math, GCD, 9, 18 is 9. So this one's a 9. Because this box is positive, I need a plus. So my answer, -2 is my first factor because that was my GCD I took out originally. The other factors are a 1x plus 2 and a 1x plus 9. All right? Okay, example number 2. Example number 2. The first thing that I noticed in example number 2 is that all 3 terms have an x. So I know that my GCD is going to include an x. But I also need to see if there's a GCD amongst the numbers 9, 15, and 24. Remember, do not type the negative. So I'm going to go to math, GCD, 9, comma, math, GCD, 15, comma, 24. Close it twice. So the GCD is 3. So I have a 3 and an X in my GCD. Remember, I don't do anything else with that, but it will end up in my final answer as the first factor. In order to figure out what's left over, what's inside of the parentheses, I need to divide. So I'm going to do 9 divided by 3 is 3. If I had x cubed, but I'm taking one of those x's outside, I only have 2 of them left. Then 15 divided by 3 is 5. I have 2 x's, but I'm taking one of them out, so I have 1 left. -24 divided by 3 is -8. And there's no x's left on the -8 because I only had 1 to start with. I took 1 out. There's none left. So now I'm going to do the rest of this formula, the rest of the chart and the box, using only what's left on the inside. So I have an A value. My A is 3. My B is 5, and my C is -8. So A times C, 3 times -8 is -24, and B is 5. Now, if the multiplied number, the 3 times the -8 is negative, that means one of these factors has to be a positive number, one has to be a negative number. Okay, so let's start with 1. So I have 1 and 24. Making one of those negative, it's never going to add up to 5. 2 and 12. When I make one negative, it's not going to add to 5. 3 and 8. 3 and 8 I can use because the difference of 3 and 8 is 5. I just need to know which one to make negative and which one to make positive. Because I need a positive answer out when I add. Positive 5, I'm going to make the 3 negative. So when you make the smaller number negative, when you add, you get a positive number out. So those are the 2 factors I know that work. So I put A, x squared in the first box, -8 in the last box, and my middle boxes turn into 8x and -3x. Now I need to GCD to find the answer. But first I'm going to look at this box to give me the sign up here, and this box to give me a sign on the side. All right, so going up, the GCD of -8 and 8. So the GCD of 8 and 8 is 8, because that's the number they both have. The GCD of 3x squared and -3x. The GCD of 3 and 3 is 3, and both boxes have an x. Going the other direction, the GCD of 8 and 3 is 1. Keep the x. The GCD of 8 and 3 is 1. Okay? So I have the 3x that I already took out. Then I have a 3x plus 8 and a 1x minus 1. That's it. All right, example 3. Example 3 is weird because it's missing the middle term. We're going to take care of that in a minute. But first we need to see if there's a GCD between 4 and 36. Remember, if there's only 2 numbers, I only have to GCD once. I don't have to type it twice. So math, GCD, 4, 36. 4. So I'm going to put a 4 on the outside. parentheses, I'm going to write what's left. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so 1x squared. I don't have the middle x, so I'm going to fill it in with a plus 0 x's. Negative 36 divided by 4, negative 36 divided by 4 is negative 9, so minus 9. So now, this 4 I took out in the beginning is going to fall in my answer, but now I'm going to forget about it, and I'm going to figure out how to factor what's left over. And in my leftovers, I have an a value of 1, a b value of 0, and a c of negative 9. So when I come to my chart, 1 times negative 9 is negative 9, and b is 0. So I need two numbers that multiply to negative 9 but add to 0. If I'm multiplying to a negative, that means I need one of the numbers to be positive and one of the numbers to be negative. So I have 1 and 9. I have 3 and 3. Those are the only factors. If I need to find the difference of the two, because one is negative to get 0, it's always going to be the one that's the same number. So negative 3 and positive 3 is 0, so those are the factors I need to use. So I put 1x squared in the first box, negative 9 in the last box. One of my boxes is negative 3x, and the other is positive 3x. Remember, this box tells you that the sign up here is minus. This box tells you the sign to the side is plus. All right, now GCD. GCD of 9 and 3, because remember, ignore the negatives, is 3. GCD of 1 and 3 is 1. Keep the x. Going across, GCD of 3 and 1 is 1. Keep the x. GCD of 9 and 3 is 3. So one of my factors is 1x minus 3, and the other factor is 1x plus 3. All right, last one. 6x squared plus 3x. So first, we need to find the GCD. So GCD of 6 and 3. GCD of 6 and 3 is 3. But the other thing I notice is that both of these also have an x. So I'm also taking out an x. Then I'm going to write the leftovers. 6 divided by 3 is 2. I started with x squared, but I took one out, so I have x. 3 divided by 3 is 1. I had an x, but I took it out, so that's all I have. So right now, all I have is 2x plus 1. So what's really cool about this one is this is your answer. You do not need the box. You do not need the chart because you do not have an x squared anymore. You can only factor using the chart and the box when you have an x squared term. But this one doesn't fit that formula anymore. Your answer is one factor is 3x. The other factor is 2x plus 1. You don't need a third factor. That's it. That's all you can do. So sometimes you can use the box. Sometimes you don't need it because you can't go any further because you don't have an x squared. And that's it.